Fourth team on our list, fourth candidate, is the Detroit Pistons, you just mentioned. Last season won 17 games, over unders 28.5 again. So they have to win 39 games. We'll keep the theme going. We mentioned Wemby, we mentioned Scoot. I think the big argument for the Detroit Pistons would be Cade Cunningham. If you believe that Cade Cunningham is a generational type player, well, it's his third season. You would expect a pretty significant breakout season for Cade Cunningham, especially if you're predicting them to win 39 games. I think another argument for them is the motivation to win. You know, this team has won 80 games combined in the last 4 seasons. 3 of those under the direction of GM Troy Weaver. Yeah. So, you know, if the clock isn't ticking on Weaver, it should be. And based on what they did this offseason, it seems like it is, because they kind of did everything in their power to get Monty Williams. They begged him. They gave him a lot of money to come be their coach. And you compare Monty Williams to someone like Chauncey Billups, like you can have a little bit more confidence in Monty Williams because, you know, he took a team to the finals a couple of years ago. He's a well-respected, successful coach in this league. And that's obviously why they went after him in this offseason. I think another argument for the Pistons is that potential for in-season trades. You mentioned the possibility, like maybe Jeremy Grant could be an option for them at some point. I think that's smart because if you're Troy Weaver, and this is 3 years in a row where your team's winning around 20 games, if this season gets off the rails at all, are you really just going to just going to sit back and let it happen for the 4th season in a row, 5th season overall? Or are you going to make some of those big trades? I think that's an argument for the Pistons that they could be motivated to do those types of deals.
Yeah.
And then the last
they just haven't done the right deals though. I mean, Weaver has made like some of the trades that he's made, like to get James Wiseman. I mean, Marvin Bagley. Like these haven't just quite worked out for them. And so you just wonder if he's dug himself too big of a hole. You look at this roster, like the guys that are going to make the difference, and this is the same for teams like the Rockets, is it has to be your young guys that help you make the jump. It's not going to be Bogdanovich, Alec Burks, Joe Harris, Monty Morris, who, by the way, may not even be in the rotation, according to our own James Edwards, which is just mind-blowing, which almost signals to me we are going to lose so many games because the guys that are going to play a majority of the minutes are all born in the year 2000 or after. So these are young guys under 23 years old. Sasser, Wiseman, Beef Stew, Killian Hayes apparently is going to play. Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Asar Thompson, Jalen Duren, who's going to anchor the defense, is their youngest player. Like that just does not ring as a roster that is going to make some big jump to me. They're just too young.
And what Andrew's referencing, so James Edwards III, who's been on this podcast, he's, you know, very plugged in with the Pistons. He wrote an article that was based on the premise that Monty Williams has said he only wants a 10-man rotation. Yeah. And so based on conversations James has had, he came up with what he guessed would be the 10-man rotation and did not have Joe Harris and Monty Morris in that 10-man rotation, which we both thought was really interesting because, you know, those were 2 of the vets they went out and got this summer to kind of bolster this young squad.
Yeah.
If they really weren't in that 10-man rotation, like you mentioned, super young. In fact, my main argument against the Pistons, youngest team in the league, younger than any of these other teams, average age 23.4. Of the 21 players currently listed on their Basketball Reference roster, 5 have more than 3 years of NBA experience. This is an incredibly young roster.
So young.
Another argument against would be just the limited minutes so far between their core pieces. So, for instance, Cade and Jaden Ivey, they've played 255 minutes together. Cade and Jalen Duren have played 51 minutes together. Expecting all of this to come together that quickly to the tune of 39 wins with a brand new coach, it feels like it's asking a lot. Yeah. And for me, I think my main hang up with the Pistons is, as much as I like their individual pieces, I'm not sold on the overall roster construction yet. You know, I look at that starting lineup that they'll probably have. You know, you believe in Bogdanovich, assuming he starts as a shooter, but we haven't seen it yet from Cade. Like, Cade needs to shoot because Jalen Duren is a non-shooter. Asar Thompson probably isn't going to be a shooter in his first year. And then Beef Stew, I mean, he's willing to shoot them, but he hasn't shot above 33% through 3 seasons in the NBA. No one's really guarding him out there. He's not really providing spacing. So I really worry about just the overall lack of shooting, especially if you if Joe Harris isn't in the rotation, like that is
Yeah.
one of the guys you do trust in terms of his shooting.
Yeah.
So I like a lot of the individual pieces, but I just feel like there's still so much to find out about this roster and how they work together.
Yeah.
And because of that, I think that's an argument against them getting to 39 wins. Final argument, that win total, 39 wins, would represent a 22 win jump from last season, which would be the largest among all these 7 candidates. Now, that is not impossible. As recently as the 21-22 season, the Timberwolves made a 23 win jump. But before that, you have to go back to the 2014-15 just to find a team that made at least a 20 win jump. So it's not impossible, but that is more rare in the realm of surprise teams.
Yeah. I mean, you think of the teams that won 39 games last year in the East. I mean, you've got the Raptors and the Bulls and the Heat were like all around there, the Atlanta Hawks. And like some of those teams really disappointed, and won around 39 games. The Pistons just seem like they seem like they're in a different galaxy than those teams. Like that for them to reach the level of those teams just feels like such a stretch for them to be considered there. And a lot of it is just that they lost Cade Cunningham for a year. And are we sure that he's going to be that good right out the gate? Maybe he can be, but I think all of it rests on Cade's shoulders. Like every ounce of this rests on his shoulders because the rest of the team, like you said, just doesn't really fit.